Hello and welcome to week 44's Dinosaw, another 7 curious interesting things I saw last week. So let's crack on. So first one is a law that was passed in China, doesn't come into act until next June, but it safeguards children online from addictive practices. So this is aimed at online services, online platforms, social media, that sort of thing. Any design system, marketing, content itself that might be seen as addictive. So any of those sort of platforms have to provide things like anti-bullying systems. They have to then allow parents to then say they want certain things blocked, or they want to know what their children have been looking at and get sort of screen time reports, those sorts of things. So it's the first time we've seen a state and a government act on these sorts of things in a very holistic way. So we've seen people like Apple on the iPhone. Every Sunday you get a content report and it tells you whether your screen time's gone up or down, and obviously if you're a parent you get your screen time report on your children's content as well. And lots of sort of PCs and applications have ways of doing that, but it's the first time we've seen a state level intervention. So I can only agree. Watch that space. Second one is the rnib and a prototype of an accessible pregnancy test. So this is with the partnership, and it's only a prototype for now, but it shows you a really interesting design thought about accessible devices, and especially when it comes to the right to privacy. So you know, when you think about this, it's one of the most private events, finding out you're pregnant, and yet if you have any sort of sight impairment or you're blind, the devices at the moment require you probably to ask a friend or a partner or a neighbour or somebody to actually read the results for you, which takes away your right to a very private event essentially. And also, you know, heaven forbid there's something wrong with the test, then it puts the onus on the friend or the person telling you the results to give you the bad news or the good news or whatever. So it puts people in a really interesting place. So, and it should just be something between you and your body. So it's a really interesting design. So you've got things like tactile areas on there with different textures so that you can quite easily detect where it is. And it's also been open sourced as well. So more of this please is essentially what that is saying. So very good. Dscript. So I reported on this a year ago or something like that, and it was essentially an editing tool for audio files at that point, and now it's had an upgrade to video. It's had one of the best intro videos I've seen in a long time as well, so definitely try and check that out. However, what it is a video editing system that uses text as the editing medium, I guess. So you upload a video, it automatically transcribes the video, so the words that you say, creates a text file out of that, and then all you do is you just then highlight the bits of text you want to cut or edit, and it just rejigs the video for you automatically in real time. So for instance, if you didn't like a whole sentence, you just highlight the text, press delete, and it rejigs the video for you. So it doesn't do anything super clever, it still just does a cut basically. However, it's really interesting. It puts video editing into the hands of normal people who don't need to really get to the the nitty-gritty of video editing. They can literally just change the text. Now if you upgrade to the Pro account as well, it can generate your voice as well. So the really interesting part there is that if you decide that you said the wrong thing, you can just retype what you meant to say and it can generate your voice and fill in the gaps as well. So really powerful. Yeah, so I've downloaded it, I've had a play with it. A little bit clunky unless you get the Pro version of it, but yeah, really interesting, dead simple to do. PayPal made a pretty big announcement in that they will be allowing people to essentially store, hold, sell cryptocurrencies. So limited to Bitcoin, Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash and Litecoin at the moment. But I think as of now in America and coming to other countries near you quite soon, there is the ability to actually trade and buy things using cryptocurrencies. So the bigger goal in this one is to get the public used to trading in digital currencies, of which we all sort of do at the moment. So obviously if you use your phone to pay for things, or if you use a debit card for instance or a credit card, you're kind of using a digital currency already. However, the announcements last week sent all of the crypto markets into a little bit of a head spin really. So actually Bitcoin last week actually went above gold and silver for the biggest return of the year. So if you're investing in something like that, then it made a big spike. So therein lies the problem, in that just an announcement like that can actually affect the value of the currency you're trying to trade in. So that's why Bitcoin's a little bit tricky, because it can be manipulated by news, for instance. However, super big news, and somebody like PayPal getting behind cryptocurrency is really, really big. This is a slightly curious one. I hope I don't mess this up, but essentially we've moved light. So I'm going to have to explain why that's important. But first of all, what did we actually do, or what did scientists do, is they cooled down light and trapped it in rubidium, some atoms of rubidium, rubidium 87 if you're really that interested. Essentially super cold rubidium, got some light, and it stopped the light, and they can then move the light 1.2 millimeters, which is huge in terms of this science, and let it go again. So and the light actually came out almost unchanged. So that's really interesting. It's kind of interesting more for quantum memory. So for instance, if you are storing information in light, then there are two parts of light that you really want to measure. If you measure them, it changes the actual light itself. So by actually trying to get the information out of the light, you change it, therefore it's useless. So if you can actually just keep the light and keep it absolutely intact and move it about, move it through memory, move it through space, for instance, and then release it unchanged. This is a big step forward for basically quantum memory, so it now makes it a little bit more possible. Lots of science fiction stuff could happen from this as well. I'm not going to bore you with that, but yeah, it's really, really interesting. So if you're really into your quantum memory and qubits and quantum computing, we've now just moved light by 1.2 millimeters, which is big news. James Bond, so obviously the next James Bond movie has been on and off and on and off because of COVID, and it's just been announced it's off again, but it's on again in April next year. Behind the scenes, it seems that MGM, who were the studio behind this, were also talking tentatively, because they've actually said they're not going to do it now, but it's quite interesting that they were talking to Netflix and Apple Plus, as far as I know. Were they going to put it behind a subscription service? So that was kind of interesting. That's the future of films, that you might need to be an Apple Plus subscriber, or you might need to be a Netflix subscriber, or might then they open it up to anybody just to do a one-off purchase. We don't know, but it was really interesting to look into the future of potential film distribution. It's been destabilized a lot at the moment. So it was reported that they were looking at, this is MGM, were looking at around $600 million to do the deal to get the exclusive rights to something like James Bond. And they've done some other films in the meantime anyway, so it's not like they aren't doing it at all. It's just like it just didn't happen for James Bond, and it was a huge amount. So yeah, it was really interesting. That watch this space, that's probably more of that to come. And finally, Clipdrop. So this is a really interesting app. Again, seen some demos of this, one-off demos, sort of tech demos for a while. And now it's actually made it to the App Store. So Clipdrop is a system that uses essentially sort of visual learning, where it knows what an object is and it can cut it out. So if you take your app, which is now connected to your desktop computer, and you point your app at an object, it will take the object, it will cut it out, and then you can just transfer it straight to your desktop computer. So if you have the plugin, for instance, in Photoshop, you can snap an object in the real world and you can just keep placing them backwards and forwards into your computer. It works with PowerPoint as well, also works with Keynote, those sorts of things. There's also a browser plugin as well. So for instance, if you are browsing an image library, and they are free libraries obviously, so you don't do this copyrighted stuff, so it will allow you to recognize the object within the image. It will cut it out for you, do all the hair and all that sort of stuff, make sure it's all cut out really nicely, and allow you to then drop it back into your program. So it's, instead of you just getting a clumpy big image and you have to cut out the background, it does it all for you. So I think it's really neat the way it can actually just take the real world things, and you can start going out on your little hunt for new inspiration by clipping out things from the real world and get them really nicely cut out. So yeah, you can download that now. There you go. And with that, we are done. So thank you very much, and I will see you next week.